The Book of Jubilees, Chapter 24. Esau sells his birthright for red lentil pottage. After running from Nimrod's men, Isaac cursed the Philistines over the water wells. And the scripture references and witnesses include the Book of Asher, Chapter 27. Esau cuts off Nimrod's head and sold his birthright. The Book of Asher, Chapter 28, verses 2 through 6 and verses 12 through 16. Isaac was blessed in the land of the Philistines. Okay, let's get into the Book of Jubilees, chapter 24, verse 1. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that Yahuwah blessed Isaac his son. And he arose from Hebron and went and dwelt at the well of the vision in the first year of the third week, 2073 a.m. of this Jubilee, 7 years. And in the first year of the fourth week, a famine began in the land in 2080 a.m. besides the first famine, which had been in the days of Abraham. And Jacob sowed lentil pottage, and Esau came from the field hungry. And he said to Jacob his brother, Give me of this red pottage. And Jacob said to him, Sell to me thy birthright, and I will give thee bread also, and some of this lentil pottage. And Esau said in his heart, I shall die of what profit to me is this birthright. And he said to Jacob, I give it to thee. And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he sware unto him. And Jacob gave his brothers Esau bread and pottage, and he eat till he was satisfied. And Esau despised his birthright. For this reason was Esau's name called Edom, on account of red pottage, which Jacob gave him for his birthright. And Jacob became the elder, and Esau was brought down from his dignity. The precept to that is witnessed in the book of Asher, chapter 27, where Esau cuts off Nimrod's head and sold his birthright. In the book of Genesis, chapter 25, 27 through 34. The book of Asher. And Esau at that time after the death of Abraham frequently went in the field to hunt. And Nimrod king of Babel, the same was Amraphel, also frequently went into his mighty men to hunt in the field, and to walk about with his men in the cool of day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days. And on a certain day Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his 2 men. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in a different direction to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him, and Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and the 2 of his men that were with him came to the place where they were with Esau, started suddenly from him his lurking place, and drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the 2 men that were with Nimrod, and they called out to him. Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of those 2 men, and they ran to know the cause of it. When they found their king and the 2 men they were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with the Nimrods prevailed over the whole land, and he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men, and he came into his father's house wearied and exalted from the fight, and he was ready to die through grief, when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want this birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter, and Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by Yahuwah. So again, that was in the book of Asher, also going over why Jacob sold his birthright at a different angle, or what took place that led up to him selling his birthright. So we know Esau was on a run from cutting off Nimrod's head and running from the field after fighting. He was so tired and hungry, he ran into Jacob, while Jacob had already had the bread and red pottage lentil ready, and he acted wisely. He was so hungry, he said, "Sell me your birthright." And he bought it. He said in his heart, what is it really to do with me? I'm hungry now. So he gave it up, and I guess he realized what he was doing. Okay, so now I'm going back to the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 27 through 34. Again, another book that's talking about the Esau selling his birthright for the lentil. And the boys, they're talking about Jacob and Esau, grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau, but he did eat of his venison, meaning deer. But Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, "Sell me this day thy birthright." And Esau said, "Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Now let's continue back to the book of Jubilees, where we left off, chapter 24, verse 8 through 16. And the famine was over the land, and Isaac departed to go down into Egypt in the 2nd year of this week, and went to the king of the Philistines in Gerar, unto Abimelech. And Yahuwah appeared unto him, unto Isaac, and said unto him, "Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land that I shall tell thee of, and sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee and bless thee. For to thee and to thy seed will I give all this land, and I will establish my oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father, and I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all this land. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because of thy father obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, and my commandments, and my laws, and my ordinances, and my covenant, and now obey my voice, and dwell in this land." And he dwelt in Gerar 3 weeks of years. And Abimelech charged concerning him in 2080 and through 2101 a.m. and concerning all that was his, saying, "Any man that shall touch him," meaning Isaac, "or aught that is his shall surely die." And Isaac waxed strong among the Philistines, and he got many possessions, oxen and sheep and camels and asses, and a great household. And he sold in the land of the Philistines, and brought in 100-fold. And Isaac became exceedingly great, and the Philistines envied him. And the precept to the blessing that Yah bless Isaac in the land of Gerar, if I'm pronouncing it right, Gerar. In the precept, book of Asher, chapter 28, verse 2 through 6, and in verses 12 through 16. And Yahuwah appeared that night to Isaac, and said to him, "Do not go down to Egypt, and rise up and go to Gerar, to Abimelech, king of Philistines, and remain there till the famine shall cease." And Isaac rose up and went to Gerar, and Yahuwah commanded him, and he remained there a full year. And when Isaac came to Gerar, the people of the land saw that Rebekah his wife was beautiful in appearance, and the people of Gerar asked Isaac concerning his wife. And he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say she was his wife, lest the people of the land should slay him on account of her. Abraham did this back before, when he was in the land, similar, when he told, I think they were in Egypt, where he told Pharaoh that Sarah was his sister as opposed to wife, because he didn't want Pharaoh to slay him because of his wife. Now continuing on. And the princes of Abimelech went and praised the woman to the king, meaning Rebekah. But he answered them not, neither did he attend to their words. But he heard them say that Isaac declared her to be his sister. So the king reserved this within himself. And Yahuwah caused Isaac to find favor in the sight of Abimelech and in the sight of all his subjects, and Abimelech acted well with Isaac. For Abimelech remembered the oath and the covenant that existed between his father and Abraham. So this was the same Pharaoh, the son of the Pharaoh that Abraham went through with Sarah. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Behold, the whole earth is before thee. Dwell wherever it may seem good in thy sight, until thou shalt return to thy land. And Abimelech gave Isaac fields and vineyards in the best part of the land of Gerar, so to sow and reap and eat the fruits of the ground until the days of the famine shall have passed by. And Isaac sowed in the land and received 100-fold in the same year, and Yahuwah blessed him. And the man waxed great, and he had possessions of flocks and possessions of herds and great store of servants. And when the days of the famine had passed away, Yahuwah appeared to Isaac and said unto him, Rise up and go forth from this place and return to thy land, to the land of Canaan. And Isaac rose up and returned to Hebron, which in the land of Canaan, he and all his belongings to him as Yahuwah commanded him. Now continuing back to the book of Jubilees, chapter 24, finishing off with verses 16 through 33. Now all the wells which the servants of Abraham had dug during the life of Abraham, the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham and filled them with earth, meaning the dust. And Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence in the first year of the 7th week, and sojourned in the valleys of Gur, and then digged again the wells of water which the servants of Abraham his father had digged, and which the Philistines had closed after the death of Abraham his father. And he called their names as Abraham his father and had named them. And the servants of Isaac dug a well in the valley and found living water. And the shepherds of Gerar strove with the shepherds of Isaac, saying, The water is ours. And Isaac called the name of the well Perversity, because they had been perverse with us. And they dug a second well, and they strove from that also, and he called its name Enmity. And he rose from thence, and they digged another well, and for they strove not, and he called the name of it Room. And Isaac said, Now Yahuwah had made room for us, and we have increased in the land. And he went up from thence to the well of the oath in the first year of the first week in 21 a.m. 20 for the Jubilee. And Yahuwah appeared to him that night on the new moon on the first month of and said unto him, I am Elohim, Yahuwah of Abraham thy father. Fear not, for I am with thee, and shall bless thee, and shall surely multiply thy seed as the sand of the earth, for thy sake of Abraham my servant. And he built an altar there, which Abraham his father had first built, and he called upon the name of Yahuwah, and he'd offer sacrifices to Elohim, Yahuwah of Abraham his father. And they digged a well, and they found living water. And the servants of Isaac digged another well, and did not find water. And they went and told Isaac that they had not found water. And Isaac said, I have sworn this day to the Philistines, and this thing has been announced to us. And he called the name of that place the well of the oath, for there had sworn to Abimelech and to Ahazath his friend, and Phicol the perfect, or his host. And Isaac knew that day that under constraint he had sworn to them to make peace with them. And Isaac on that day cursed the Philistines and said, Cursed be the Philistines until the day of wrath and indignation from the midst of all nations. May Elohim Yahuwah make them a derision and a curse and an object of wrath and indignation in their hands, and of the sinners, the Gentiles, and in the hands of Kittim. And whoever escapes the sword of the enemy and the Kittim, may the righteous nation root out in judgment from under heaven, for they shall be the enemies and the foes of my children throughout their generation upon the earth. And no remnant shall be left to them, nor one that shall be saved on the day of wrath of judgment. For destructions and rooting out of expulsion from the earth is the whole seed of the Philistines reserved. And there shall no longer be left for them Capitorim, a name or a seed on the earth. For though he ascended into heaven, then shall he be brought down. And though he make himself strong on earth, then shall he be dragged forth. And though he hide himself amongst the nations, even from thence shall he be rooted out. And though he descend into Sheol, the grave, though also shall his condemnation be great, and there also shall be have no peace. And if he go into captivity by the hands of those that seek his life, shall they slay him on the way, and neither name nor seed shall be left to him on all the earth, for into eternal malediction shall he depart. And thus it is written and engraved concerning him on the heavenly tablets, to do unto him on the day of judgment, so that he may be rooted out of the earth. Wow, that's a harsh judgment. And that is the end of chapter 24 of the book of Jubilees.